Hey all, thanks for tuning in. Before we get started, make sure that you hit the subscribe button down here and you hit the notification button so you get updates on all of the new videos. Thanks for watching and enjoy. One more thing, I was hoping that you would be willing to share the story of your friend when you were growing up because that
Oh,
really
yeah.
touched me. Yeah, and there's this term going around now, like how to be anti-racist. And I'm not an expert on that term or whatever, but when I thought about that story, I'm like, that's what that guy did when you were a kid growing up was an anti-racist act. So I thought it would be cool if you could just share that story, or if you're interested in sharing that story here.
Sure, I'll share it. I'll share it. Just give you the backstory on that because it's important. During, I was going to junior high school, and middle school in the 1970s. Now, around that time, this was like still during the civil rights era, and a lot of the schools in the African American communities were underfunded, and the education, comparatively speaking, was not as good, as it was in some of the, white neighborhoods, and so Board of Education got this great idea. I think it had promise. What we'll do is we will bus out, the some kids from the African American communities into the white schools. That way, we will give the children a opportunity to interact with each other, at an
Mm-hmm.
early age, and also, since the teachers have to teach the white kids, will be in the classroom and get the same quality of education that their students are getting. And so we would all get up, me and a bunch of students from around the city in New York, would get up early in the morning and be bused out to these white schools. What we didn't know was that a lot of the white students were coached on how they should treat us when we got there. And I tell you, in the city of New York, they were literally at three. You could set your watch by it. In the spring, at 3 o'clock, there were riots in the schools. I'm talking about riots. You'd have carloads in our school. You have carloads of racist whites. They would drive up, get out the car and trace us, and we'd be running for our lives. They would trace us to the train station, like, or
Mm.
to the, well, mostly to the train station. And they never came into the train station to beat us down. But if they caught us before we got to the train station, you'd be beat down. And this happened all over the city.
Mm.
And shopkeepers closed their doors to us. There was never any news coverage on it. The cops never showed up. I would talk to other students from other schools. Cops never show up. And so this was an explosive situation. And school was a place, that you were always wondering as you're doing your work at 3 o'clock. Am I going to run? How fast can I run? Can I get out on time? And then you even had some teachers who were really sadistic about it and would keep you after class, knowing that you couldn't walk with your friends and now you're by yourself and you might have to run or get beat up. And
Mm.
so throughout all of this, I had this, one friend, his name was Pat Amatuli. And Pat and I were both artists. We both drew, and so we struck up a friendship in class. We would be drawing different things, and we both at the time, were taking martial arts lessons, and we both found that out. We both Bruce Lee fans, and so
Yeah.
one day Pat says, "Hey, Elgin, why don't you come to my house to eat?" And I said, "Great." His friends were horrified. Pat's friends, because Pat was one of these popular kids, and now he's a Negro lover, using the N word in a polite way, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And my friends, of course, were horrified also. How can you go to this guy's house? They're the enemy. You're going to get killed. Blah 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 blah. And so he's getting flack on his side by his friends. I'm getting flack on my side, and so I go to Pat Amatuli's house, and I remember the first time I went there, his mom was surprised because I was probably the first black person that, her son never brought home who was in her house. And it was so funny because she was serving eggplant. and eggplant, and Pat's Italian, you know. So eggplant is a racist term that that Italians sometimes call African Americans. And they call you a muli or mulignat, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
But she happened to be serving eggplant, so maybe she was even a little embarrassed by that. I didn't know at the time that that was a racist word, you know. But I said, she said, do you like eggplant? It was kind of innocent. And I said, no, I've never had it before, you know. And so I went to his house a couple of other times, you know, and you know, it was great. We would do martial arts there. We would, you know, draw, you know, and do stuff like that. And years later, I realized what Pat did. You know, when all of this racial stuff would be happening, you know, in the school, and I'd be running for my life, the rest of my friends, when I would hear all of this garbage coming at me, you know, there's one thing that I always thought in my heart. I said, they're not all like that. I
Mm.
had concrete, empirical proof they're not all like that because that's not, you know, who Pat was. That's not, you know, who we were, you know, together, you know, and you know, throughout the years, it shaped me, and I was so thankful for when Facebook came out because Pat moved, you know, to California, you know, shortly after, you know, we got, you know, when we left school. He moved to California, and I never saw him again. And then when Facebook came out, I looked him up, and you know, I was able to find him, you know, and thank him, you know, for what he did, you know, and you know, recently, you know, I thanked him again, you know, on Facebook in the wake of this whole situation with George Floyd,
Hmm.
you know. So I mean, it's important. It's important, you know, to have relationships. A lot of sometimes a lot what causes a lot of racism is a lack of understanding. You don't really know people. You know of them. You know the caricature,
Hmm.
pun unintended. You know of what they're supposed to be like. Oh, all black people are like this. Oh, all white people you're like
Hmm.
this.
Hmm.
But you know sometimes when you quiz people, they've never actually had you know intimate you know relationships. You
Hmm.
know on either side. Not they might have run into them. You might be run into a black person. You might talk to them, or you might tolerate, you know, a white person, you know. But having that kind of a friendship, you know, that's you know what changes you,
Yeah.
you know, and only by a person's heart being changed, you know, is this thing going to turn around. People's hearts need to be changed. Does that answer the
That's
question?
that's great. I think we should end it on that. That
Mm-hmm.
was that was. Thank you for sharing that, and yeah, I just thought that that was a really great story, and it
Mm-hmm.
just shows like how one person can make a difference. You know, like
Sure.
that affected your whole life, and that one act of courage and kind of rebellion in the face of racism, like not just changed your relationship and his relationship, but that affected everybody in some
Mm-hmm.
way. You know, like it sent waves against the vibe there, and it showed that like it could be another way. So yeah, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it shows the impact that one person can have if they're conscious and they're able to think for themselves and follow their heart. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see the full interview, you can see it here. Be sure to subscribe here. And if you'd like to support us on Patreon, we would really appreciate that. It will help keep the channel going. You can do that here. Also, if you have any suggestions, critiques on the interview, or any guests or topics that you would like us to make videos on, please leave it in the comments below and we'll get to it as soon as we can. Thanks for watching and happy painting. Bye.